everyone, it's Amy here. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today I have the video that everybody loves, the most highly anticipated video that everyone looks for at the beginning of every year. It is my top books of 2020. So to give you a little rundown of my reading in 2020, I read 72 books, which is actually more than double I read in 2019, so I feel quite chuffed with that, especially considering the fact that I wasn't on furlough. I worked full-time throughout the whole of COVID and everything like that. I also had about 7 weeks where I was sick with COVID and I did no reading whatsoever, so the fact that I still managed to read all of those books, I just feel like I deserve a little pat on the back there. So today I have 7 books to share with you, my creme de la creme, my favourite books of the year. Let's jump straight into it. First 2 books I'm going to share with you, I actually have only just spoken about in my December wrap up, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. I will share a link to my wrap up if you want to go and look at them. They'll be right near the end because they're my 5-star reads. First one of those is Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. If you saw one of my reading vlogs at the beginning of December as well, I was raving about how much I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed this book so much that I actually went and bought all of the rest of the books written by Kate Morton because I just knew that she was going to be an author that I loved and would want to read more of very quickly. To sum it up in a few words, this is a family tragedy set across multiple timelines following 3 female characters. We are based in Australia, we are also based in Cornwall. There's love, there's loss, there's art, there's the beautiful Cornish scenery. I love this book so much. I also really love the specific covers that have been designed for these books because they're gorgeous. Have you read this one? I'd love to talk to you down below. The second book that I've only just spoken about is Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Try and sum this up in a few words. It's LGBT, set in the 1950s and around that time. It follows a main character called Molly Bolt, who is a spunky, gumptious, like bright little hilarious little character. We follow her from childhood right through to her 20s, and it's her experiencing life, being opinionated and wanting to love who she wants to love, be who she wants to be, and the struggles that she goes through because of who she is and the time that she lives in and the place that she lives in. This book made me laugh, but it also filled me with a lot of sadness for the character and a lot of hope as well for the future, that actually we are getting to a time where people's sexuality, who they choose to love, isn't something that would jeopardize them or their careers or who they want it to be. I hope we're moving more towards that. And so this book was fantastic. I would really highly recommend. Next we have a book that I actually don't own a physical copy of because I read it on an ebook, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So this book is a Greek mythology retelling, and it tells the story of the Trojan War and specifically Achilles and his journey to being in the Trojan War. We read through the character of Achilles himself and then also his companion Patroclus. So in the first few chapters of the book, Patroclus is sent as punishment to live with Achilles in his father's palace because Patroclus has committed a crime. Though Patroclus was a prince before, he has now been stripped of that title and he is living as kind of one of the underlings in this palace. Despite that, him and Achilles become fast friends, and we see them grow together and how they form a very, very tight relationship. We watch as their relationship grows stronger and stronger and eventually becomes a romance. Now, I read 3 books this year which essentially follow this Greek mythology retelling. This one was the first one I read, and I think that is why I love this one the most, because Madeline Miller has a stunning way of writing books. Circe was one of my favourite books of the year before, and this one was just beautiful. Compared with The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker and 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes, this is a very romanticised version of the story. I loved the romance between Achilles and Patroclus. It just literally, it gave me everything. I'm keen to read anything that Madeline Miller puts out because she really knows how to tell a tale. Whilst we're on the theme of Greek mythology, my next book is Mythos by Stephen Fry. Now, I listened to this one on audiobook, and I would implore all of you, if you have access to an audiobook service, to go and listen to this one. Stephen Fry has the most brilliant way of telling a tale. His voice is just wonderful to listen to, and I actually think it's the first audiobook that I've ever fully listened to and actually really enjoyed. Essentially, this is a huge retelling of the creation of Greek mythology, how the gods came to be, the Titans, the Olympians, how all of their offspring ended up coming to be. What I really loved was that I have a very basic knowledge of Greek mythology, so I kind of know various names of people from here and there, various heroes, various different gods. I didn't really know their origins and the stories and where they kind of came from. So obviously, as this is a retelling, it's a retelling. Stephen Fry, it's his twist on the Greek myths and how he thinks they came to be and how he wanted to tell them, and he does it brilliantly. One thing I really loved was how he ties in words that we know and use in our vocabulary today and how they may link back to words from Greek mythology. So it might be the name of a god or something that they have done, and how that kind of links all the way down to words that we still use today. It was really enjoyable to listen to, and I'm really keen to get my hands on a paperback copy so that I can have it to kind of dip in and out of again in the future. Next, we have a book that I actually read right back at the beginning of 2019, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is an exquisite read. I loved the story, I loved the characters, there's an element of mystery here. Pretty much hit all of the things I like in a novel. It was just stunning. We follow a character called Kaya, and she is known locally as the Marsh Girl. So she lives out in a bit of a shack on the outskirts of this town, and she's a bit of a pariah. She's a bit of an outcast and people don't really like her. We kind of jump between present day, where a young man has been found dead in the marshland, to back in Kaya's childhood and the upbringing that she had, how she came to be completely alone in the marsh. There's this element of mystery in there, but it also has so many other kind of topics that it glances on. We go through her childhood, which is stricken with poverty and like abusive relationships. Kaya herself is so at one with nature. Her love of the marshland really comes through in the book. It makes you want to go there and experience the things that she's seeing and feeling. As soon as I finished it, I knew it was one that I wanted to keep so that I could reread again in the future, because I know that I would pick up so many more kind of clues and things along the way if I reread it. The penultimate book I have to share with you is Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. This book is set in Nigeria in the 1980s, and it follows a woman who has been struggling to produce a child for her husband. We read through her eyes and can feel how visceral the need for a child is within her. To her surprise, her mother-in-law and husband then introduce a new wife into the family. So this in Nigeria, I believe, is very common for husbands to take more than one wife. However, our main character is not happy with it. The story is also set to a backdrop of a lot of political turmoil happening in Nigeria at the time. It's a real deep dive into the meaning of love and connection with a partner, the grief and loss that you feel if you aren't able to have children the way that you want to, the idea of this woman feeling replaced by another woman coming into their home. The setting of this book and the character feels so far removed from me as a white woman living in the UK. However, I felt so connected to her story and her grief and just everything that she experienced. I just wanted to get in the book and just take her up and just take her away from everything that she was having to go through. For me personally, it shone a whole new light on something that I'd never even thought about or knew about in Nigeria before reading this book. It was just beautifully told. Definitely one that I would consider rereading if I felt like mentally ready for it, but definitely one I would recommend to all of you. Final book I have to share with you, and I do think I can say that this is my favourite book from the year, and that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. It's funny because I've actually seen people who love The Night Circus say that they just didn't really like this book at all. Now in my instance, I actually didn't enjoy The Night Circus all that much, but I loved this book so much so that I'm actually going to be rereading it again this year as part of one of my resolutions for the year. It follows the story of Zachary Rawlins, who's a university age student, and we learn that when he was a child he was walking down a road and he saw this amazingly painted doorway on a wall. On that doorway there was also a painting of a bee, a key and a sword. Now these symbols become very important in the rest of the story, but skip forward to Zachary being at university, and he takes a book out from the library that doesn't really look like it's an actual library book. It doesn't really look like a proper book at all. When he starts reading it, he starts reading about himself as a child walking down the street and seeing this painted doorway and not going through it. As he reads on, he realizes that this story is more and more about him, and he can't fathom how on earth anyone has written this into a book. So Zachary then endeavours to discover the mysteries of this book. We've got mystery, we've got a bit of crime, there's an LGBT romance, there's like a mystical, magical element of this place called the Starless Sea, which is eventually where Zachary ends up going, which is where these doorways lead to. I'm actually going to leave it there for that one, because I think if you have any interest in reading this book, that actually experiencing it for yourself and not having my words in your head is going to be incredible, and I really do hope that people go and read it and enjoy it. Let me know if you do go and read it. Please come and tell me what you think of it. There we go, those are my top books of 2020. I would love to hear down below if you've read any of these. What are your favourite books of the year? Come and have a chat with me. I'm also planning on filming another video which is going to be my book awards for the year, so lots of different categories that I've created so I can talk about more books that I've read in this year that I either loved or didn't love, so look forward to that. As always, I will leave links to everything I've mentioned today down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you soon. Bye!